Today on Cryptic Mass Guitar, we do a high gain off between the Epiphone Les Paul Standard 50s and the Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s. If you're wondering why the flameage here is a little crazy, this is a limited edition AAA flame top. So just a few things very quickly. I'm just going to skip the whole Epiphone versus Gibson thing. Just be an adult. Let people enjoy their guitars. For the love of all things holy, be an adult. But YouTube videos are fantastic. It's a great way to actually see and hear a guitar that you might be looking to purchase. However, you have to realize it's in someone else's hands with someone else's amp choices, setting choices for the amp, what they're going to actually play, and tuning that they're in. So you can't really reach through the screen and play the guitar for yourself. So please don't use YouTube videos as like the sole purpose or the sole deciding factor as to why you're buying a guitar. Please try them out for yourself. The best way to actually see if the guitar is going to work for you or not is to play it. So if you have that opportunity, please go to the store and play it for yourself. Now for the high gain off here, I have this divided into 4 different sections. Section number 1 is 2 sound samples with leads built into them. Section number 2 is both guitars played, just 1 sound sample, the Epiphone left, the Gibson right. And then section 3 is just 4 different, like quick riffs and stuff like that with 4 different amp heads. And then finally, section 4, I show you something that might be a little bit better for you that you might not be thinking of if you're looking to just, buy another guitar to change your sound. So on to section 1, we start off in DADGAD in C with a lead. Then we move on to sample 2, which is E flat standard with a harmony section and a lead. The last part in the harmony, it bugs me. It's like 2-3 notes that are just, they're just not in time for some odd reason. I can tell you that I got out of the hospital 2 days ago, but really that's no excuse at this point. That just bugs me. But on to section 2, where we play the Epiphone left and the Gibson right in a sound sample so you can hear how they sound together. On to section 3, I'm basically going to play, like 4 1-minute sound samples in 4 different tunings with 4 different amp heads. The whole reasoning behind that is whenever I do like amp shootouts or guitar shootouts, you usually hear the comment of like, hey, I came here hoping you'd play this amp, but you didn't play it, and I see that you have this amp. I would have liked to have heard that amp. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of coverage here. Now, on to section 4 here. Like I said earlier, this is something that maybe you wouldn't think of. Because what ends up happening is, to us as guitar players, because we're obsessed with guitars, we get that idea in our mind to, I got to change my sound. And the first thing that we think of, maybe other than a pedal, would be, I need a new guitar. So you're going to, maybe if you have the Epiphone, I got to get the Gibson version because it's going to sound so much different. And it just really escapes us that there's other things that we could do that would really drastically and perhaps for the better change your sound, especially if you're in a 2-guitar player band or in a recording environment. This is huge for a recording environment. So my aim here is, because when people watch these videos, it's usually those like Apple EarPod or AirPod Pros. The comment that I get is, I'm listening with the AirPod Pros, man, and I can't tell a difference, or I can barely tell a difference. It's like, excellent. You're not listening with flat response, and those headphones there have increased low end to them. So not the best judge with headphones. However, there's not going to be like night and day differences sound-wise between these 2 guitars, or almost any guitars, to be honest. So my aim here is to show you that, if you get a different speaker or a different set of speakers or a different cabinet altogether, that's really going to change your sound a heck of a lot more. So what I have here, and it is a little long, it's like 4 minutes, I think, maybe 4.5. But I'm going to play the same like riff set on the Epiphone and then on the Gibson. And you'll listen to the differences between the two. And then I'm going to change the 4x12 cabinet. And these are real 4x12 cabinet. I'm old. I don't get along with IRs. So I'll change the 4x12 cabinet. Then you're going to listen to this. And then you're going to listen to this. Then I'll change the 4x12 cabinet. You tell me, what's the bigger difference? From guitar to guitar or from cabinet to cabinet? That was very long and a little bit excessive. It's hard to do too with two guitars because it is so long and it's a little monotonous, but it's fun to do as well. So that's it for all the different sound samples. So what I like to do here is give a little bit of information on specs and then just give you my thoughts on both of these guitars here. So, and I also have to note that I have like a very longer video that actually goes way more in depth on the differences. I'll leave a link in the description. And then if you're looking for something that's not high gain for sound sample comparison wise, I'll leave a link for that as well. So I'm just going to go through some of the bare bones spec differences here, similarities and differences and such. And then I'll give you my thoughts. So both have mahogany bodies with carved maple tops. So we have slab mahogany, carved maple top. Neither of these are weight relieved, so non-weight relieved. The Epiphone has a veneer on the front and a veneer on the back. Epiphone does this for a few reasons. Number one, it's to hide how many pieces of wood they're using. So the body here is actually 3 pieces. I have a 60s that I've rented that's 4 pieces. And I'm not sure for the top itself. But the other reason that they use it to hide how many pieces they're using, what the wood actually looks like, because they don't generally, they quite often will use Akame or Sapelli. They're starting to kind of admit that now, the 2025 versions, because this is a 2024. The other reasoning behind it, and it's actually beneficial budget-wise for the guitars, so they don't have to actually grade their wood because they use veneers. So they're not paying someone to, grade it. Say this is a double A, this is a triple A, this is a single A, this is that. So they use veneers, or they actually use solid colors to actually hide all of that stuff. The Gibson here, 2-piece real flame maple top, and the back is a 2-piece mahogany body. So basically when I say 3-piece and 2-piece here, what it is they glue 3 pieces or 2 pieces of mahogany together before they cut out the shape of the guitar. Both guitars have mahogany necks. The Epiphone here has a joint going into the body, and it also has a scarf joint on the back, whereas this is a single piece of mahogany for the Gibson. The neck carve here is actually 59 medium C, although it's not a 59 medium C because it'd be a little chunkier right in the back, right in the middle on the back. But we'll call it a medium C. The Gibson here is the 50s vintage, so it's not baseball bat, just a little slimmer than baseball bat, but quite a thick neck. Do I need to say 14-degree headstock angle and 17-degree headstock angle? Someone's gonna get mad if I don't. I said it. You should be happy. Both guitars have the vintage deluxe Clouson style tuners. The Epiphone has the Epiphone branded, whereas the Gibson has the Gibson branded. They are a little bit different, thickness wise. The Epiphone, it feels a little lighter, but they both hold their tune really well. As far as pickups, the Epiphone here has the Epiphone ProBucker 2 in the bridge and the ProBucker 1 in the neck. The Gibson here has the Burstbucker 2 in the bridge and the Burstbucker 1 in the neck. Both have 2-volume, 2-tone. Here's the big thing with the Epiphone. The Epiphone here has, I think it's the Mallory capacitors in it, and it's also their CTS potentiometers. The potentiometers are soldered, however, they're connected to the pickups via a quick connect. It's a little weird, but it's actually 50s wiring in here, which is fantastic because if you're someone like me who does use the tone and the volume, 50s wiring, when you turn down the volume with modern wiring, which is on the Gibson, it starts to darken the tone a little. That doesn't happen when it comes to 50s wiring. However, when you start to dial back on that tone, it starts to bring down the volume just a little bit, so it can actually clean up like a dirty signal in some cases. The Gibson has the CTS audio taper potentiometers, although they are Gibson branded, with their hand soldered as well, with a little bit of a harness there, and they have the orange drop capacitors. Bridge-wise, we're looking at the Epiphone Locktone Tunematic bridge here, which has the 3 saddles facing one way, 3 saddles facing the other way. The saddles don't have the greatest reputation. Well, the saddles are okay, but the little screws that hold them in don't have the best reputation. They're metric sizing, so if you go through Tone Pros or any other company, just get the metric sizing, not the imperial sizing. Very inexpensive and very easy to do yourself to replace the bridge. The Gibson has the ABR1, albeit it is not drilled directly into the body. It is using that like metal doweling bushing system, which I don't see any problems with. The ABR1 is a fantastic bridge. So that's really all I'm going to touch spec-wise here. I do want to talk about my thoughts on both of these guitars. Now, I've rented the Epiphone. I own the Gibson. But I'm selling the Gibson. I have 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 63 SG Special, and a 64 SG with the Maestro from the custom shop. So those are the guitars that I really gravitate towards now. So like the Gibson here is just, I hate having it on the wall, so that's why I'm selling it. I don't think it's bad by any reason. It's a fantastic guitar. But the Epiphone, this is probably the best Epiphone I've ever played. A lot of it has to do with the 50s wiring and the fact that these pickups aren't dull. They're not, there's not a whole bunch of definition to it, but with the 50s wiring, the Mallory capacitor, I think it's Mallory, but just the upgraded functionality or components that are in this guitar in comparison, especially to the standard 60s from Epiphone, I don't understand how they're selling them at the same price, because this has just so much more, to me at least. I think this is the best Epiphone that I've played. Frets are fantastic. It still has, it doesn't have that tension. Sorry, I'm still, just got out of the hospital, so I'm still a little messed up. It doesn't have that tension. And again, a lot of that has to do with the 14-degree headstock angle. The Tunematic doesn't go all like as far down as you can get it, really, if that makes any sense. Just because of the way that like the bolts and everything in there are, they're like protruding a little bit. Whereas the Gibsons always seem to have everything sort of a little on the recessed side for their Tunematics. So you can get it a lot further down to increase the tension. That might bug some people who, there's like, I don't know, 1% of guitar players that believe, lowering the stop bar doesn't do anything to tension. They'll tell you that, you get string tension is all done via string gauge. Look at guitar strings. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, because of the headstock angle, it doesn't have the tension. So if you're someone who doesn't like a whole bunch of tension, that's awesome. But for me, it just creates a completely different feel. So I don't, again, you have to remember I own the Gibson, I've rented the Epiphone, so they don't feel the same to me. Sound-wise, they're a lot closer than the 60s are. And I think this sounds fantastic. It plays really well. I just wish it had that tension. And as well, I'm someone that really likes nitro cellulose finish over polyurethane. So that is something I do really notice when I'm playing on the neck. A lot of people don't like nitro. They like satin nitro, but not gloss nitro. So that is something to keep into consideration here. But I just think that the Epiphone Standards 50s is just a fantastic guitar. The Gibson Standard 50s, on the other hand, my favorite in the Gibson USA range, by far. Just the chunky neck that's on it. It's just so comfortable. It just feels like it's home to me. And, I mean, it's definitely a heavier guitar. Probably by 1.5 pounds, if not 2 pounds. Holding both of these. Epiphone's definitely lighter. So save your back with the Epiphone. But I'm also someone who likes, a little bit of a heavier Les Paul. Something that, sounds stupid, but lets me know that it's there. But yeah, either choice, like either of these guitars is a fantastic choice for you. Really, it is. And if you're someone that is bothered by the shape of the headstock, Even though this is the new shape of the headstock or the name on the headstock, then just save up and get the Gibson, because if you get the Epiphone and it bothers you that much that it's an Epiphone guitar and that the headstock is different, then don't buy it. It's just going to bother you. Thanks for watching.